The following podcast is provided by an approved senior care provider on the Answers for Elders radio network. Welcome back, everyone. It's Answers for Elders Radio, and we are here talking about a very difficult subject for many, and it's a welcome topic for me. And I'm thrilled to have the wonderful Cassidy Bastien with us, who is an end-of-life doula, and we are talking about the end of life. We always talk about best quality of life as seniors are aging, and certainly. But there comes a time when you're caregiving a loved one, or when you are in a point where you realize the end is near. And it may be the near end might be a year from now, but we still have an option to go into what's brand of care, which is called hospice. And we may have heard the term, and I remember we are here again with Cassidy Bastien. And Cassidy, thank you, first of all, for outlining a little bit about palliative care. But then we move into a different category of care, and that's called hospice. Tell us a little bit about what hospice is.
So hospice is, it is to me, the umbrella of care that surrounds end of life care, right? So hospice care is not in lieu of care, it's on top of care. Yeah. So, and that's a common misconception that people have, that when they call hospice, we are going to be there in home 24/7 to do all of that hard bed-bound, actively transitioning care. And what we're seeing a lot of is that maybe our medical community isn't as educated as well on the hospice benefit. So eligibility for hospice really comes down to a significant decline. We're not walking, we're not eating. Or maybe it's just like we've had a 20-pound weight loss, right? Any type of decline. We get a lot of people who come on hospice and they just don't have the care that they need. And once we get everything in place, they graduate. Right. They're no longer on our service. But a lot of what we see too is that we have people waiting until people are actively transitioning. And that's what we call it in the hospice community, when people are actively dying, which could be weeks to days to hours. And really, that's not enough time for the hospice benefit to really surround and support those patients and their families. Right. So really, hospice says, the Medicare mandates say that requirements for eligibility is a diagnosis of 6 months or less to live. And there has, you have to have a doctor's referral for that. But if you really feel like, your person is eligible, you are more than willing to call any hospice program in your area, ask for an evaluation. And if you meet those requirements, you're going to be, you're going to qualify. You're going to qualify for hospice services. So hospice really is focusing on quality and comfort at end of life. Sure. We're no longer doing life-saving treatments. We are only doing medical interventions, including antibiotics, that are for comfort only. It's not to, sustain life by any means. So that's kind of in a nutshell what hospice is. And it comes with, doctors and nurses and certified nurses aides and chaplains and volunteers and bereavement coordinators. So when I say that we don't always have time to really surround people with that bubble of hospice love that I call it, we really don't. But there's so much that's available to you on the hospice benefit if you're there early, if you get there early.
And obviously hospice is paid for by Medicare.
It is.
And so you get more benefits through Medicare if you're in a hospice classification. Would you explain a little bit about that?
Right. So what's available to you via Medicare and covered by Medicare is any treatments and or medications that are aligned with the diagnosis that you've been given to be on hospice. Okay. Direct medical equipment like hospital beds, wheelchairs, walkers, bedside commodes, over the bedside tables, care supplies, briefs, creams, lotions, soaps, pads, all of these,
all of those things,
all those things that you've probably
catheters. Yeah.
oh my
So
gosh,
yeah.
everything.
So Cassidy, in many cases, if somebody's in hospice, they can actually go home to pass away.
Absolutely. But the main thing is that we want people to make sure that when they go home to pass, they have a caregiver or care in place.
Right.
Right. And at least myself, and I know that most hospice clinicians are very respectful of a person's autonomy at end of life and what they want for their end of life. And sometimes that is refusing to have a caregiver and refusing to be bathed and all of those things. So people can absolutely go home, which is why it's important that you talk to your family and you make sure if you're going to go home or to anybody else's home. I've had people open up their homes to have people, their loved ones, come to their home.
Yeah.
That you have somebody who's going to be there to care for you.
Correct.
Hospice is not always going to be there 24/7 in home. We're always available by the phone, but we're not always going to be at the bedside 24 hours a day.
Sure.
So we got to make sure that care is in place before we get home.
Right. And then obviously, in working with hospice, there's the hospice team also helps the family.
Absolutely. I mean,
tell me a little bit about that, about the hospice role with family members.
Okay. So when somebody comes on hospice services, they are given a team, a nurse and a social worker. And then if the patient wants, they can add on the home health aide or certified nurse's aide. They can add on a chaplain if they'd like to. And I really want to call chaplains spiritual care advisors because they are completely non-denominational and they really just hold the space for death and dying. So the hospice team altogether, we are observing and maintaining quality of life and comfort. So your nurse is maintaining your medications. Your nurse's aide is making sure you're bathed and groomed once or twice a week, checking your skin, making sure that you're cared for in the way that best serves you. And your chaplain is supporting you. Your social worker is to reach out if you need care needs. Maybe you have VA benefits you've never qualified for.
Sure.
Your social worker can do that for you in hospice. So all of those people and all of us as a team are really there to hold up that patient and their family through their journey.
Well, and I think with the family, one of the things that I think I've been so impressed with hospice is they help prepare the family for the end. Absolutely. And I think the one thing that I've heard so many times how amazing hospice is because it helps the family understand how to interact, how to be there, how to support, and just keep the family focused on what's most important at this time. And I think that really is a key point because I think when a loved one is passing, emotions are high. Dynamics in the family always, sometimes there's conflicts, sometimes there's hurt feelings, sometimes there's arguments. It goes right into so many things that go on within family dynamics. And the beauty of a hospice is they make, I think, the whole end wonderful. It's like they remind a family of what's most important and how to move the family forward together. And I've heard so many stories of, being together in a hospital bed and playing, the favorite music as someone, or holding hands around, family members who haven't talked to each other in decades, and here they are together because they had the proper team in place to facilitate something that became amazing and healing. Absolutely. And I think a lot of cases that doesn't happen in families.
It's true. And, sometimes I always like to say, if we do it right, and it's hard because at hospice, we're only given one shot to get it right. Right. We are only given one shot. And you learn as you go with each case and each family and each person. You watch each person's end of life journey,
and every family's different. So
it is. And everybody,
yeah.
I like to say that everybody's end of life journey is unique to them as their soul is, and it will be as it should be for each person. But the hospice team, absolutely, if we do it right, we set a sacred space for death and dying. We allow families to, what you were talking about is what we call holding vigil. Is sitting down at the bedside of your loved ones and filling it with that love and that light and those pictures and those conversations and the music and the laughter and all of those things. And you're right, not everybody gets that.
No,
but
they don't.
We can do that for people.
Yeah. And I think that's the key with the hospice, is part of it is really promoting emotional healing while allowing that person to let go. And that, I think, is such an important piece of all of this. And certainly in working with your team, you also can support families to find resources that they may not know about.
Absolutely.
Give them options that they didn't know that existed. So there's a lot of support for the family with hospice care while they're getting this elevated period of care. And I think that's what's so important. And now we have a lot of wonderful hospice resources here, and you can point people into that direction. Tell us how we reach you again, Cassidy.
Absolutely. You can find me at My End of Life Northwest on Facebook. You can find my website is myendoflifenorthwest.com. It has all of my contact information. You can reach out to me via Facebook. It has my email on there. So you can absolutely reach out to me to find out, or if you have any hospice or palliative care questions or end of life questions, definitely give me a jingle.
Well, we're excited that you're sharing this with us, because certainly it's a hard thing to talk about. And in our next segment, we're going to talk about how to talk to your loved one who is dying, how to quote unquote coach them to the other side, how to be the best support possible. And Cassidy will be right back right after this. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.